So parenting is hard, and the thing is that it's always changing. It's one of those things that's constantly in flux. And so, when I had 3 children, I implemented systems that I then had to modify when I had 5 children and then 8 children. And now I'm at a place in life where, we're serving in Thailand, running a children's home, and we have our 3 youngest little boys that we're still raising. And so we have a total of 28 kids right now that we're trying to train and disciple and teach responsibility. And so we've had to take those things that we've learned along the way and adapt them for what will work now in this setting with these kids. And so that's a little bit of what I'm going to share today. Tip number 1. Hold them accountable by giving them something to work toward. Oh, this is a big one. We have struggled with teaching our children, our present children in this setting, how to keep their rooms clean. And so this is not something that most of them have ever had to do. They're not accustomed to it, and it's been a serious challenge. And everything that we have tried along the way has essentially flopped. And this is new territory for us because before this point, we had started early on with our birth children. And so they learned from an early age what they needed to do and, sort of what the expectation was. So this is sort of a new level. And what we did is we created a checklist. It has 13 items on it. There are 65 points up for grabs because each of those 13 items have a point value of 5. They can be scored anywhere from 0 to 5 on each of those items. And what this does is it clearly defines what we want them to do, but it gives them something to work toward. And so we are not pushing competition between the rooms, but we are pushing them to sort of be competitive with themselves. What did they get last week? What did they get yesterday? What score? And how can they do better? And whenever points are taken off or something, there's a little note beside that letting them know exactly what it was. We're not super picky. We don't grade it or score it according to the standard of how we would clean, but we want to see that the effort is being made and that they are learning responsibility and that they're learning to take care of their things. And what we do is we keep a running tally every day. It gets added up onto the whiteboard, and whoever has the highest point, the most number of points, as well as anybody that comes within 5 points of the highest scoring room, will receive a prize. Obviously, the first prize is slightly, greater than the second prize, and the idea is everybody can win. They can all get the same score or perfect scores, and everybody can get the prize. So literally, this is not a competitive thing. This is just something to motivate them. Okay, for tip number 2, have clearly defined tasks and consistent deadlines. So here is an area where we really slipped, is that we would give instructions, but they wouldn't be clear or concise enough for the children that we were working with. And so we were giving an expectation that they didn't really understand. And because we understood, we didn't understand that they didn't understand. And so what we've done with, back to this form that we've given them, is it clearly defines for them what that level of expectation is, what clean is to us. And so rather than just saying to them, go clean your room, we're telling them what clean is. So it's going to involve having your bed made, having your floor swept, having your belongings put away. All of that is on the checklist. And then that gives them a constant reminder, a visual reminder of what it is that's expected. They also know when it is expected to be done by, because our American boys are homeschooled, but our Thai children are required to be in the school. And so they leave for school a little after 7. So by about 7 o'clock, they need to have all of that checklist done. This is made easier if they keep their room tidy the night before, and they're not having to pick up from then, so that it's also teaching them, there's like a ripple effect. Tip number 3, avoid the herd mentality. And by this, I mean, this can look different ways. So you can have sort of the herd mentality. We run into that especially in this kind of, group setting where we're running a children's home with various ages. And it's a lot of kids, it's a lot to keep up with. And so it's very easy and tempting to just sort of have the same rules for everybody. And that doesn't really work without creating sort of animosity and ill will. And so in a general sense, we're trying to learn to just really avoid that herd mentality and recognize that these are individual children that we're working with and discipling. And the same thing with, specifically teaching responsibility. One of two things tends to happen. We either expect the same thing of every child, which isn't fair because every child is not capable of the same things, or we tend to go heavy on assigning the bulk or, all of the work in many cases to the kids most capable of doing it. And this is an injustice to everybody. It doesn't teach the younger children anything except that somebody else will do what they should be doing. And it teaches the older children to resent the younger ones. So we have sort of age-adapted expectations. We have a 3-year-old who will do anything that she can to get out of, washing her dishes. After our meals here, everybody's required to wash their own plate and spoon and cup. And we even have our little ones. Our 1-year-old does not, but down to our 3-year-old, that expectation is there for everybody because they're all capable of doing that. She has a stool. We make sure that she's able to reach the sponge and the soap, and she's able to do it. Sometimes maybe needs a little bit of help, but it's a responsibility that she is able to assume and carry out. However, we do not have her do the same level of responsibility as we have, even the 6, 7-year-olds. So that recognition that it needs to be reasonable, that expectation needs to be reasonable in order for them to succeed and not be discouraged. Okay, tip number 4, work alongside your children. And this is crucial. Because if you begin to delegate responsibility, which is a wonderful thing, and you delegate yourself out of it to the point that you're sitting around doing nothing, and they're watching you, that your screen time is increasing, or you're watching whatever is out there now, that you're watching something, you're just in downtime so frequently, and they're like, we're doing all the work. Well, it's wonderful to teach them responsibility, but the best way to teach it is to model it. And so working alongside the kids, doing, if you're taking them do yard work, if they're cleaning their rooms, you're cleaning the house, you're sweeping some part of the house, you're cleaning bathrooms, you're doing something so that they can see they're part of a team. Now, obviously, as kids age, those expectations can change, but always you have to temper the workload, the workload distribution in such a way that nobody's overwhelmed, but everybody's being given an opportunity to grow. Okay, tip number 5. Talk to them about why we keep order, complete tasks, and maintain structure. Show him Jesus, as he came from the tomb, that he folded his garments because he's a God of order. Take them into the Proverbs and show them all the texts about the lazy man and how Scripture says he won't be fed. We want to model that for our kids, and we want them to understand we are created in the image of Jesus to behave, to have his character, to allow the Spirit to work within us so that we emerge with the characters of Jesus. And that is our whole purpose in raising children. And finally, tip number 6, affirm them for a job well done. So especially when they do the job well, and if they do it without prompting, all the better. Because that's ultimately what our goal is for our kids to have an understanding of what the expectation is, and then to be able to do it without prompting. So it's not a monkey on our backs, so that they can learn that they're expected not only to do the required task, but to do it on time and without being reminded. That's part of growing up and becoming an adult, and that's what these growing up years are, to teach them that. And so you want to affirm them, you want to give them encouragement, but don't go overboard. Because when we go overboard, when we're too enthusiastic, whenever they do well, it makes them think, well, they didn't expect me to do well. They're surprised that I was able to do this. We want to help them understand, we know you can do this. We know that what we expect of you is reasonable. We know you can carry it out and you can succeed, and we're proud of you for it. Okay, so those are my 6 tips for how to teach children responsibility. Obviously, 100% not an exhaustive list. We would love to hear if you have any tips that you've used with success over the years with your own children.